Seems smaller. Alrighty. That'll do. That'll do. You cool? You gonna be doing all that stuff you did to me while I was doing the cooking show? Guess it's too brightly lit in the kitchen. Alrighty, music week. Let's see where we are and what we're doing. So, Linux Music Maker. I'm going to go with that in the future. I don't know that it's wise for me to pull this up right now. It might actually choke the internet feed. Might interfere with the live stream, so I will close this real quick. But so this is the format of the environment in Linux Music Maker. So this is a lot of I don't understand it just yet. So I got to figure some of that out as a step. So I'm going to look into that. This is one of the things I'm going to try to teach myself and learn a little about this week. So let's close that out. Projects. Quit. I think that's the best way to do that because I don't want to overload the computer while it's live streaming. But I may end up loading up Linux Music Maker on the laptop here that I can use separate from what I'm live streaming on. So that may end up being what I end up doing here. But for right now, I'm going to spend like the next day trying to familiarize myself a little bit with it, the Linux Music Maker, and get a sense of what I can do with it. Because for the most part, most of what I'm going to end up doing is do a small probably about a 4 to 8 bar repeat that's going to have 4 chord progressions with a bass that matches the chords but establishes a musical beat, and then have a thumping beat on the bottom of with a bass drum, and that as a loopable background track. So I could take 8 bars in pairs. So 4 bars, 4 bar variant, 4 bar, 4 bar variant, a completely varied 4 bar variant, and then back to the original 4 bar, and maybe just repeat the 4 bar as the last set. And that could be a whole song, the foundations of a song. It's not going to be something that has a melody, a complex melody, because it's going to be something that plays under talking, but it's going to be sort of like a background music that I can use on my channel. Now I'm thinking of using like a C major and an A minor as sort of like a flippable conversion of those. And so I can set an upbeat mood and a intensity mood with the switch from them, and potentially changing the speed and the rhythm can change aspects of those. And so that's background music. It's something that it can run for 10 to 20 minutes in the background and just lend a little atmosphere to it. But I also want to do like a 10-minute jingle. Or not a 10-minute. No, like a 10-second jingle. That'll be like the channel jingle for this channel. And I will do some sound effects. So like a record stop, a car screech, breaking glass, a scream, and then like a cash register noise, canned laughter, maybe canned crying. I don't know if there's such a term, but fake crying. And I think like basically they're going to be the sound equivalent of emojis, I think is what I'm going to end up doing. And then, so that would be like the three things I'm thinking of for this channel. And it's possible if I'm doing well enough, I may end up doing the equivalent for my other channel. So do a background music that can be either exciting, upbeat, or tension-filling minor chords. And then I need a jingle for the channel, and then maybe some generic sound effects. And if I can do that, like that would be 3 different musical things for each channel. So that'd be 6 things for like a thing for each day of the week. So if I do sort of like the loopable track, the 8-bar loopable for this channel tomorrow, and then like a jingle for this channel on Tuesday, and then, or maybe I'll just start with the sound effects. That might make more sense because I'm not familiar enough with the music software yet to maybe get it all right, but I can take recordings of sound effects over the next day or so and use those in Audacity to rip, resample, and rework them, get a sense for how much I can warp and twist certain sound effects, and then from there maybe do samples of some sounds in the environment, warp them into individual tones that I can use to weave them into music for the Roving Jack channel or this one. And that can be the background music and the jingle. I feel like the trick with the Roving Jack channel music is the name is already based off an Irish folk music song. And I may just end up with a little bit of like sample the music from the folk song, mix up a newer version of it using sound effects. I don't know that I want to be the one that sings it because I don't know that I have a particularly great singing voice, but I might give it a try. So I might do that. The jingle for the Roving Jack, it's only going to be essentially me playing the appropriate music for the verse that I'll use, which will probably be, he's a roving jack of many a trade of every trade, and if you wish to know his name, they call him Jack of all trades. And that's all I need. That's a clip, that's the jingle. I need the music for it. I need to sing it more musically than what I just spoke it as. And I think that's all I would need for the jingle for that. But the trick is, it is a whole song. And at some point, I may want to actually go through and do the whole song. Now, there are different versions of this song throughout history. It's one of those things that I've been playing with for years in my head since I used this as a username for the last, I want to say 12 years at least. I've used Roving Jack as a username, and that's where everybody knows me out there. So I did a little research early on. It was one of my favorite folk songs. There are different versions of it throughout history, and like the one that is most well known, if you actually search the words Roving Jack on YouTube, I come up first, and then somewhere underneath me is the song sung by the Johnstons, I think it is. Or maybe it's the Dubliners. But if you do that search and you come across it and you play it, the character of the Roving Jack in the song, he's a bit of a con artist, which I'm not as big a fan of as some of the other versions. So like the song has always been a song about traveling itinerant, I get essentially a tinker. And he's a person of multiple skills, and in some of the songs, it's like he was a clockmaker, a candlestick maker. He's done crafts. He's created things. He's worked on things. Some of the others have been service type skills, where a selling mutton ready roasted, or things like that. But in the most well-known version of the song, it's like on Tanner Street, furniture I sold with fleas and bugs, I sold it, something like that. And there's a tone to it of pull any trick you can to make a buck from something. So he sold old shoes. He did a few other jobs where it was just sort of like he acquired certain things that were toss away items, and despite them being in bad condition, sold them as if they were new. I'm not a big fan of that connotation of it. But there are, like I said, there are at least 2 or 3 other versions where it's legitimately somebody who acquired lots of skills and of traveling, like clockmakers and butchers and bakers, candlestick makers, clockmakers, a clothier, and it's sort of like, it's a little bit more of the story of a person who has multiple skills and is using them all to try to survive in times where money's tight. And I like those ones better. But what I started doing years ago was compiling a list between all the different versions of the songs, of all the different jobs the character has supposedly done. And the other thing that happens is the song is sort of like and on Tanner Street, I do declare I sold butter, eggs, and bacon, or something like that. And then he goes on to another street where he does another job. And so each version of the song occurs in a different part of the United Kingdom. There are actually some versions that occur in England, some in Scotland, most of them come from Ireland. And many of them have slightly different lists of skills and different ways they string them together. So I built this massive list of all the jobs, and it's like, if you did 1 or 2 of them for each line of the verse, like it oftentimes does, then you'd have close to a 10 to 12 minute long song if you sang all of them. So I may end up cherry picking the ones that I like most. But I think it would be kind of fun to do a remix or rework of that song where it's the not con artist version. It's the multi-skilled traveling worker with city names from all over the world and the skills and trades that they've learned and practiced, and do it with an upbeat tone to it and mixing the music to be a little more modern than a simple Irish folk music type tone. Maybe give it a little bit more of a modern sound to it. I think that would be fun to do. I'm not ready to write a whole song, rewrite a whole song myself yet. I'm not sure I'm there yet, and I'm not sure I'm up for singing it. But I could give it a go. And I feel like because I want my channel jingle, despite the fact that like I'll be doing this whole long song, the jingle is going to be an excerpt of it. Just the main verse. He's a roving jack of many a trade of every trade. And if you wish to know his name, they call him Jack of all trades. Just doing that bit for the jingle, that's great. If it's an excerpt from a larger song, I also kind of have to figure out the rest of the song, the music I'm going to use for the bass of it, and the tone, and how I'm going to, end up making the music for it. I could do the hi-hat as a hammer on an anvil, do the chop some wood to get the tones of the bass drum or a tom-tom, and fish around in a can full of nuts and bolts to get the sound of a snare. And that'll get you the beats of the song, and then the tones of the song. The bass might be the sound of an engine running, or something like that. I'm not sure yet. And then the actual chords being played. Do I want that to be piano? Do I want that to be a xylophone? Do I want to set up different materials like scrap iron and get tones off of them and use those sort of like musical notes for making the song with? It's hard to say what would work best for this idea. So I'm gonna tinker and think about it, because as much as the jingle is just a 10-second jingle, if I want it to later match a larger song, I got to figure out how I'm going to create the larger song to get the jingle. Not that I can't do two different versions of it at different times, but that's probably going to be something I resort to at the end, where I'll plan and I'll figure out a way to make it way too difficult to achieve in the next 6 days, and then settle for doing a simpler version now and working out a better version later. It happens a lot. Over planning, underperforming. It's not really underperforming. It's still better than not doing it at all. But I don't want to get trapped in that mindset. But I am aware that it's a tall order to rewrite an entire song within the next few days if I'm working on other things at the same time. So let's figure out a sound effect list. So we will need canned laughter. Just because every now and then it's fun to give a fake laugh at something. Okay, so laughter, weeping, school bell, steam whistle for end of work, glass break, scream, record stop, car screech, explosion, fanfare, taps, and that the wah wah, I guess is what you get. Wah wah wah. And then I'm thinking of all those cartoon noises. Awooga, wolf whistle, let's break up the scream into woman scream, man scream, battle cry, maybe door open, fire, cash register. There you go. Cash register. Baby. Canned weeping. Might also throw in baby crying. And aw. Yosemite Sam style swearing. Sawing, hammering, drilling, So we've got a pretty big list right there that we could do for sound effects and make a sample board of sounds that we can throw out for different reasons. Clinking metal. I'm also trying to think of like video games, like different sounds that you achieve at different levels. Like there's the background music, there's jumping, landing on something, bouncing, hurt, death. So video game sounds. So I'm thinking like Mario. He's dun 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 dun. Boom, boop, boop. And then and then beep, beep, beep. Stuff like that. Simple noises like that. And I'll figure out a way to make some equivalent of it in the real world. Can't believe I'm sitting here making noises with my mouth. It's sort of a stupid way to do it. But all right. Maybe pulling something like that off. Just sort of like, so it could be amusing during a video to include some sound effects as if I were a video game character. So I'm also thinking of like in some of the more modern games where it's like you're walking through an environment and you encounter, oh, here's this item, the sound of picking it up, the swish or crinkle or other sound of picking a thing up, the followed by the clink as it goes into your inventory. Swish, clink. And potentially user interface sounds. So like if I, at the end of a video, were to say like, if you're interested in seeing this video, click on the link over on the side here, and then have it come up and go boom or pulse with a halo around it to light up what it is. And heartbeat. Sword drawn. That sort of shing, which will be different from the clink of rattling metal. That sound is different from the sound of a shing. Like I should be able to grab samples of like doing just what I just did there. For a clinking sound. And then I don't think I can do it here. So sounds like that. Being able to achieve that. And I could probably do a kitchen knife off of the honing rod, and that would probably get a nice ringing tone if I do it right. I've got to think of some other sounds. I mean, this is a good enough list that I can do a lot of stuff with it. And I imagine I'll figure out things I'm missing the next time I need to do something with it. Like if I come across working on a video and go, oh, I don't have a sound for that, then I can make it. But building this main list, I think if I can get at least part of this list done, there are some other things like I don't know that I'll get a baby crying, and I'm not sure I can get a woman's scream without seeming like a really, really weird request to make from somebody. And then I can do canned laughing, canned weeping. I could make up a school bell sound, a steam whistle. I could break some glass. I could scream. I could do a battle cry. I could probably do a record stop. Catching a car screech might be a little difficult. There's not a lot of place where I can instigate that to happen without getting myself in some serious trouble. And explosions might be a little difficult. But I'll look into some of like the movie effects and how the Folio artists pull off some of those sound effects. Fanfare. I might do a small, sort of like a joke fanfare, like doo 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 doo, with like a children's toy horn. Taps, similar. Wah wah wah. That's easy enough to do. Door opening. I think I've got a video somewhere of a fire that I was playing around with, and I might have the sound of that fire I can play with. I can also build a flamethrower to make the sound I need from a whooshing fire. A cash register. There's got to be somewhere I can get the sound of a ch-ch-ching. Yosemite Sam style swearing, sawing, hammering, drilling, clinking metal sword drawn, heartbeat, and then I should be able to digitally manipulate sounds to reproduce a close cousin to like the Mario video game and some of the more recent video game style sounds that I want to borrow. So I can fabricate them from scratch. So overall, I think of this list, there are only about 5 or 6 of them that I couldn't make happen reasonably within a week. So I will pull off some of the easier ones that I can do in the next day or so. I will work on a jingle for perhaps this channel, then the looping track for this channel, then the looping track for Roving Jack, potentially, followed by the jingle for Roving Jack, and then see if I can finish off as many of the rest of these sound effects as I can by the end of the week. There should be 6 types of sound that I can produce for use in this week of 6 days. So that would end me up on Saturday. And after that, I believe, is video game week starting on Sunday. So that's sort of my battle plan at this point. Yeah, it's about half an hour in. I'm not sure what else to say. I will be tinkering with Linux Music Maker for the looping tracks, definitely. And considering that the theme music, the jingle at the beginning of each of my channels, is going to be hopefully syncing with the background music. I'm hoping to kind of make them to be companion pieces for each one. That roving jack one's going to be tricky. Only because I've made it tricky, as is my usual case. So let's just make a note here. So sound effects are going to be a list of canned laughter, canned weeping. See if I can find a way to get a baby crying. An awe, school bell, steam whistle for end of work, glass breaking. I might be able to get one of my female friends to do a shocked, terrified scream. And then a man screaming, a battle cry, record stop. I should be able to get something like that to happen. And then car screech. I might be able to pull my car into a parking lot and do a from park to a certain speed so that my tires screech. See if I can get that sound to happen. Explosion, again, might be a little difficult. Maybe if I take like those toy caps, the gun caps, set one off and slow it down, that might work. Fanfare, taps, wah, wah, wah. I don't know how I'm going to make that one happen. I don't want to do it with my mouth. That seems kind of stupid. But I might be able to see if I can get a single tone from something and then change that tone in editing effect. And a wooga. I think I know somebody with an older vehicle that actually has a horn that behaves that way. A wolf whistle I can do. Doors opening, fire. Cash register might be a little difficult. I might be able to get a mechanical click-clack and then a ringing bell that goes ting. So I might be able to make that out of other sounds. Yosemite Sam swearing. All you need to do is hold the microphone close to me when I'm working on a project that's not going right. That'll work just fine. What's your fucking and we've got a couple saws out here, and I can saw through some scrap wood. And then I might even do like a electric saw. And then drilling, hammering. I can take an empty can and put some nuts and bolts in it and just shake it, and that'll work for clinking metal. A knife on a honing rod for the shing of a blade being drawn. And then I might be able to get auditory heartbeat sounds. I got to figure out like the best way to maybe make that happen. And then the video game sounds, I may tinker around with seeing if I can get some equivalent of those in Audacity or LMMS to see if I can make that happen. But with that, that's a decent list of sound effects that I should be able to pull off. I should be able to assemble those. And I don't think I'll use all of those on this channel. I'll use some of them. And I'll use maybe some of them over on Roving Jack. And then I might borrow a few of them for Opportunity Forge. Maybe Steaming Mad. I doubt I'll use any of these. Well, I mean, I may resort to one or two every now and then once I get Cooking with Kuno up and running. But I think I'll have way more here than I'll potentially use in any of my channels. But to have them and not need them would be better than to need them and not have them, I think. So that's the sound effects. After that is roving jack, looping track, and matching jingle, and inspired content, looping tracks. I may actually end up doing more because there are different feels of things that I do here, whereas what I do over on Roving Jack is pretty kind of one note. Like, I'm not going to need to do intense music or serious sad music or any of that kind of crap. It's pretty much going to be straightforward. You need a little something to carry the pace for you in the background, so you don't have just dead silence at certain scenes. And maybe a little something that works also in like a higher speed, so that when I speed it up, it's like so it's not just sort of like a through long drawn out scenes of nothing to share but what I'm working on. Like, I don't want to do that. So I may actually just do a variable speed tone on that kind of thing, but kind of play with it a little bit, figure out what works best. And multiple moods for each. Okay, and then the sound effects, essentially. That's not how you spell multiple. I don't know where the Y came from. Oh, it's right next to the T. That's part of the problem. All right, so that's sort of the battle plan there. That, if I space it so that the looping tracks and the jingles are on separate days for both my channels, it's sort of like if I were to say they were both the same thing, I could conceivably count that as just one. That would be 1, 2, and then a big list of sound effects. If I counted that as a single thing, I'd say I'm doing 3 things this week. But in essence, what I'm really working on is 6 different things at least. And depending on whether or not I get multiple tones on each of them, it might be more than that. And considering I'm going to spend some time trying to familiarize myself with the software, yeah, you can play that later. I was kind of a little late. I left my mom's house. She goes to bed at like 9. So I left my mom's house a little after 9 as she was getting ready for bed. And I thought I wasn't going to get back here, but I took a different route, and I think it took me about an hour and a half to get back here. And I just pulled my stuff together, and I said, like, I've got a little time, because it was about 10:30 at that point. It's like, I'm here. I could just sit down right in front of the camera. So I didn't settle into the house. I literally put all the food I had into the fridge and then sat down and just turned on. So I'm 10:30 tonight. So about what we've been doing this week, a little later than what I was doing beforehand. 10:30 works for me right now. So I thought I was going to be late too. I probably, I'm sure there's something I forgot to do. Like, I could have stopped at my post office to check my post office box, but I didn't. And I think the next time I'm going to get the chance to do that is probably in a week and a half, and hopefully nothing important comes. Or at the same time, that thing or two that I've been waiting for, it'd be nice if that showed up. And I probably could have gotten some more groceries, but I didn't. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. I feel like I'm going to get up tomorrow and go like, okay, let's do, oh crap, I don't have what I need to do this project. So it's going to take me 40 minutes to go out and get this from a local store, because it's going to take me 20 minutes to get there and 20 minutes to get back if I don't get caught in traffic. So it's going to end up being like an hour and a half production just to get what I need that I could have gotten on the way back tonight. But I don't know what it is that I need. It's just not there. My brain's not in the space it needs to figure out what it is I forgot to do tonight. So I'm not going to worry about it. It'll be what it'll be later this week. I'll figure it out some other time. Yeah, I was sort of just kind of like, part of it was also that I was talking with my mom about some of my projects that I've been working on, and kind of interested to get back in and play with some of the stuff, like the Linux Music Maker. Like, I know enough to know it's potentially useful for me, but I don't know anywhere near enough to make it useful to me right now. So, like, I know there's a part of that process, the learning how to use it, that I'm kind of interested to get started on. So the idea of like, well, we'll do that in a couple hours, my brain's just like, nope, it's all I can think about right now. So let's just play with it a little bit. So, once I pulled out my laptop and turned on the computer to look at them, I'm like, well, might as well just start doing what I'm supposed to be doing and recording. I will try not to do random scheduling. I will aim for 10:30 for the rest of the week, and then see how that works for me. If it's working out all right, I'll kind of keep to that schedule at least till the end of video game. So for the next 2 weeks, I'll aim for a 10:30 start. I'm actually thinking what I'll probably do is keep going that route all the way out, and I'll talk to some people at VidCon in California and get a sense for if it feels like it makes a difference when I start, when I should start for like, I know that if I do a live stream video like this, the time frame for it to catch the attention of people who may want to see it is from the start of it, and I think for like the next 3 to 6 hours is like the peak moment for catching people. And then I feel like, and I have no proof of this, that it just quickly just drops off anybody's interest. And the problem with that is, if you get enough of your content that keeps dropping off like that, it's going to recommend you less often. And I think that can hurt the success of projects that I work on and hurt my ability to collaborate with other creators. So with that in mind, I will talk with some people at VidCon about the possibility of a better time slot and whether or not it makes sense for me to do these necessarily live. I can record them like this, and people can go back and watch them later at their convenience. But if I don't post them as live updates, but instead as recorded videos, they may actually work better in the recommendations and whatnot, because live looks like it's targeted specifically for people to join while you're doing it. And if not enough people join while you're doing it, it may recommend you less often to other people. And so if I do them as edited videos, that may not be as much of a factor. I believe for like an edited video, it's the first 24 to 48 hours that do the maximum amount of advantage for getting people to recognize what you're doing and recommending it to more people. And I feel like that's potentially an advantage. I don't know whether or not that's something similar I have to worry about with like the premiere videos. I did a few of those during the mukbangs where it's announced the day before, but it's a pre-recorded video, so it gets a countdown before it happens, and then once it happens, I can comment on the side like here, but I'm commenting on my own video where it's pre-recorded. And I don't know what the recommendation windows on those are, and the effect of like, I don't know if it's like the first 24 to 48 hours for those as well. And if they don't meet a certain quota, then they'll assume it's not of interest to most people and then stop recommending it to other people who may be interested. I don't know how premieres work differently from the regular ones, and I don't have like a full confirmation of what the actual numbers and access numbers are for those types of things. Because I think possibly if I did these types of videos between 3 and 5 p.m., I would get a different demographic of people who may be more interested in some of the things like the video games and less interested in other things like making them. Well, video games and music probably would do all right. I imagine the writing and the board games would be better at other times. And so I really want to get a sense for other people who do certain types of content on a regular basis, what that sort of looks like. I don't know that it'll necessarily change how I do things here, but it'll give me more information to make the decision about how I do things here better. Like, I know that what I do on this channel, I'm, for a lot of people's sense of understanding, I'm all over the place. I do writing, I do artwork, I do board games, I do video scripting, I've done some product development, I do reviews of things and writing prompts and creative prompts for other people. I do video game reviews and working on creating video games. I do taste tests, and those are all different categories. And it feels like it's all over the place for some people. And I realize, like, I can look at my analytics on YouTube, and it'll tell me, like, oh yeah, your 2 biggest videos are a review of a thermos and a review of a set of headphones. Now, when I went to VidCon last year, I mean, I wasn't going to change anything based on the recommendations, but they have people like, oh yeah, we'll give you a professional analysis of how your channel's doing and what you need to do to improve it. I'm like, I'm not chasing success and fame like it's a part-time business. I'm doing this because I love the things that I'm doing and I want to share what I love. So, but I was like, I'm curious to see what they'll tell me. Like, I already know some of the things that they'll probably recommend because that's the certain type of thing that they do. Like, if you're going to start a channel and you want to treat it like a business, I can already tell you, I need to do better thumbnails. I need to hire somebody to make a theme song for my channel. See if I can get somebody to animate a 3-second opener, just like the title of the channel and the episode title, something like that. I can hire somebody to do that for $10 on Fiverr or something like that. And then I need to get an account with a company that'll give me new and interesting music to use in every episode, or at least once a week, a new song. And I need a better lighting rig. I need to do I need a DSLR camera where I can do aperture adjustment and the white balance better. And like, I know all of that crap would get me to be what's the equivalent, like a Grant Thompson, King of Random, or I could do something like a Philip DeFranco or a Grace Helbig or a Hannah Hart, kind of studio quality TV program on YouTube. But that's not what I'm doing. And the other recommendation they'll make is, look, people are interested in the reviews of the headphones. They're interested in the review of the thermos. And I'm like, that's great. I have zero interest in buying a new product every week, testing it, and reviewing it. I do not want to consume that amount of stuff. I review once a month a thing that's of interest to me and I think is good quality and worth talking about. Sometimes it's a product, sometimes it's a service. I think that's enough consumerism for me. Movies, I don't want to review 3 movies a week. I don't have the budget to go to a theater 3 times a week. And I certainly don't have the budget to buy, DVDs, even like the $5 DVDs. If I did 3 $5 DVDs a week, it'd be $15 a week, close to $70 a month, easy. And it's like, I don't want to spend $70 a month on DVDs or digital downloads of movies. Like, that's not where I'm going. And so I acknowledge that the model I'm using for what I'm doing isn't the right way to do it. And I'm okay with that. And part of being okay with that is acknowledging that this is not going to be a rapid growth channel. And it's not going to be the new sensation in video or audio quality. I'm not going to be a big celebrity. That's not my aim. But by the same token, part of what we're doing when you do a channel like this is, if I'm looking for the 50 to 100 people who are going to be my fan base and work and play together on our projects that we share with each other, then I need to be able to be found by those people. In order to be found by those people, I have to play a certain amount of YouTube's analytics game. I have to be able to use the recommended tabs. I have to be able to network and collaborate with other creators. And the only way that happens is if they know who you are and where to find you. And the only way they know how to do that is if you know which buttons on the algorithm to push. So I'm going to see what buttons are available to manipulate and choose which ones make the most sense for what I'm trying to do. And if it turns out that, doing an 8 a.m. video each day and a 3 to 5 p.m. video each day, every day of the week, edited, quality, high end, then screw it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. That's fine. I'm not looking to, I'm not looking for some bizarre thing that's not me. I don't want to be disingenuous. I don't want to change the motivation of doing this to catch as many people. And I'd rather keep it be a nerd, be a geek, and find a way to share that with other nerds and geeks. That's really, in the end, what I'm doing, is being my geeky, nerdy self and finding other geeky, nerdy people who maybe don't have the same interests, but whom we can work together on each other's interests to help each other, create and do nerdy, geeky things together. Like, I have zero interest in romance novels. But if a romance novel writer is interested in joining a conversation about writing projects that we're working on, then please join us and have fun talking about the experience. There's no judgment here about your personal, well, mostly no judgment on a person's personal style. I'm going to sort of go out there and say, like, if you're a bigoted racist or a pedophile, we don't want anything to do with you. Controversial as that may seem to some people, I'm disinclined to be accepting and tolerant of those behaviors. Anyway, yeah, that was sort of a wandered off into the political weeds a little bit, maybe. Nah, that's not political. That's just decent behavior. Anyway, so yeah, I do need to figure out a little bit about the best way to do that. And I think talking and networking with people at VidCon will help me get a better sense. And then from an informed point of view, figure out any adjustments I want to make. But I will give plenty of lead time, and I will do my very best not to lose the supporters that come by already. So I'm not going to lose you to potentially gain somebody else if it doesn't make sense to do so. Does that make sense? No. That's a horrible way of phrasing that. I'm not chasing somebody I don't already have at the risk of losing people I already have. Because I got a couple friends who check out some of my stuff on their own time frame, and I'm not going to make it harder for them to be interested or share what I'm doing either. So I'm not interested in change for the sake of pursuing somebody who isn't interested in me right now. I just want to see if there's a way to find the people who maybe would be interested, but just don't know I'm here yet. Alrighty, we're at an hour on this one, and I'm ready to call it here and get tinkering on some of what I'm going to be playing with over the next 6 days. So thank you for joining me. I'm sorry I didn't get the times right. I will be back tomorrow. I think I'll just come back tomorrow at 10:30. I think that'll make it the new time frame. Sunday nights are always going to be the ones where I have an event somewhere I go to. But usually I should be done with those around 9. And I'm not going anywhere where an hour and a half is not enough time to get back for. So I feel like every day of the week I should be able to get back here by 10:30 East Coast time. I think it's 9:30 your time, right? So I should be able to do 10:30 for the foreseeable future. I think once I'm on the road, I may not be able to update as much, and that's not going to happen until the end of June. So we've got at least a month and a half easy of time that I can try to stick to a 10:30 time frame. So I will see you tomorrow around 10:30 East Coast time, Eastern Standard. I think that's what it's called. I hate time zones. I'm wondering if I should start using a clock that measures just off of universal time, which is, I think, based off of Greenwich time. I'll think about that. Because I do know that on some of my videos, I get a larger number of the population from, I think on the Roving Jack channel, I get half of the subscribers I've had in the last year have been from the Middle East and India. So Yeah, I'll think about the timing, and I will be back tomorrow at 10:30 with reports on the progress I'm making on figuring this music software out, and some updates about how I'm thinking of working on the videos for the channel while I'm traveling. Alrighty, I will call it here for the night. Have yourself a good one. And hopefully I got in pretty quickly when I started talking, so there's not a lot of lag time. I think within the first minute, I hit the ground running talking about my plans for the week. So hopefully it's good content and not me rambling like a weirdo. Have a good one. Oh, good night. You know, that D is important. Alrighty. Good night. Did I spell it right this time? Yes, there.